Hello viewers, in this video I will try to explain a text, and this text is related to travel writing of BA English Literature syllabus. So since in the syllabus only 2 lessons are required, that's why I will not explain further. So this will be the first video and first part of this series. Before the discussion, let's try to know about the writer of this book, William Dalrymple. William Dalrymple, he was born as William Hamilton Dalrymple on 20 March 1965. He is a Delhi-based Scottish historian and art historian, and he is also a curator, photographer, broadcaster, and critic. Apart from that, he is also one of the co-founders and co-directors of the world's largest writers' festival, that is Jaipur Literature Festival. Okay. Now, let's try to know about his other literary works. Apart from City of Djinns, the writer has also produced many books on the basis of Indian history, culture, and Indian geography. If you talk about his other works, then his works include From the Holy Mountain, A Journey in the Shadow of Byzantium, that was published in 1997. Then The Age of Kali, that was published in 1998. White Mughals in 2002. The Last Mughal, The Fall of a Dynasty, Delhi 1857, published in 2006. 9 Lives in Search of the Sacred in Modern India, it was published in 2009. Return of a King, The Battle of Afghanistan, it was published in 2012. Then Kohinoor, The History of the World's Most Infamous Diamond, published in 2017. Then The Anarchy, The Relentless Rise of the Northeast Indian Company, that was published in 2019. So this was his last and recent book. Apart from book, he has also done reporting for news channels. Okay, and he was also awarded with many honors and prizes, literary prizes especially. If you talk about his life, then he was born in Scotland, and then his influence, it lies in the history and art of India, Pakistan, Afghanistan, Middle East, Hinduism, Buddhism, the Jains, and the early Eastern Christianity. And every one of his 10 books have won literary prizes so far, and his 3 books were included as travel books based on his journeys in the Middle East, India, and Central Asia. His early influences included travel writers such as Robert Byron, Eric Newby, and Bruce Chatwin. So that's a brief introduction about our writer, William Dalrymple. Now, let's try to know what this book says. Before that, I would like to add something here. This book is a travel writing book. Since this book is a travel writing book, the perspective of the author, it will matter. And in the exam too, you have to write what kinds of experience the writer has had in his journey, and what kinds of things he has learned, and what kinds of experience he had got. Okay. So the title of the book is City of Djinns, A Year in Delhi. So this whole book, it is based on the writer's experience when he lived in Delhi for 1 year, and he has called Delhi, the capital of India, as City of Djinns. Djinns means, I think most of you know, Djinns is related to spirit. It is related to some black magic. I hope you all know. If you don't know, then please go through the meaning of this word. So let's try to read the first chapter of this book. The flat perch, so this is the chapter 1. The flat perch at the top of the house, little more than a lean-to riveted to Mrs. Puri's ceiling. The stairwell exuded sticky, airless September heat. The roof was as thin as corrugated iron. So at the beginning of the chapter, the writer has tried to depict how his rent room was in Delhi. Now he has also described about his landlord, or we can say landlady, and all that experiences, all that observations that he had made, that all things we will try to know through this chapter 1. So in this line, the writer has tried to say that when he has first reached to see his rent room, then he has spotted that a flat perch means a bird was taking rest on the roof of the house. Okay, so he has spotted that, and then he has also seen that that bird was taking rest near the Mrs. Puri's ceiling. So here Mrs. Puri is the landlady. Okay, and the stairwell of the landlady's house, it was also exuded sticky air due to September heat, and the roof was as thin as corrugated iron. Corrugated, it's like folded, okay, like a roofing sheet of our house. So that is called corrugated. That's it. Inside, we were greeted by a scene from Great Expectations. So here the writer has tried to compare how he was greeted by the landlady or by the house itself. The writer is saying that when he had entered into the house of Mrs. Puri, where he will stay for some days in Delhi, then he has compared that scene of the house with a novel from, you must have heard, Charles Dickens. Charles Dickens has written many novels, and among them is Great Expectations. So he has now tried to compare that Great Expectation scene in this circumstance. And he has said that a thick pall of dust on every surface, a family of sparrows nesting in the blinds, and a fleece of old cobwebs, great arbors of spider silk arching the corner walls. Mrs. Puri stood at the doorway, a small pan figure in a salwar kameez. So here the writer is saying that when he had entered into the house of Mrs. Puri, then he has seen that the house was very dirty, and the house was filled up with old cobwebs. Cobwebs means spider's web. And apart from that, the house was also surrounded by various kinds of birds, okay, and great arbors of spider silk arching the corner wall. So not only birds inside the house, you will get also numerous cobwebs, means spider's web, means it was downrightly dirty and not clean. Mrs. Puri stood at the doorway, and when these all things were spotted by the writer at the time, Mrs. Puri, the landlady of the house, she was sitting at the doorway, means at the entrance gate, and she was a small woman, maybe in the context of her size, and she bent figure in a salwar kameez, and she was wearing salwar kameez. The last tenant did not go out much, she said. Now the landlady has said that the last tenant means the last time the person who stayed in that house. Okay, so that person, he did not go out much, means he was not a socialized kind of person, and that thing was informed by the landlady to the writer. Prodding the cobwebs, so prodding the cobwebs with her walking stick. So at that time when she said this thing, she was prodding the cobwebs. Prodding means to jabbing or poking, means trying to remove or trying to poke at the cobwebs with her walking stick. So since the landlady was a very old woman, she had used a stick to walk. And she added, she has also said, he was not a tidy gentleman. So the landlady has also said that that man, that last tenant, he was not a very clean man, means he does not, or he did not clean the house. Olivia blew on a cupboard. The dust was so thick you could sign your name in it. So here the author is saying that his wife name was Olivia, and Olivia had tried to clean the cupboard of the house. Cupboard is where you can keep your important belongings, including books, mobile phone, like that, and dress your clothes. And the dust was so thick you could sign your name in it. So here the writer is saying when Olivia was trying to clean the house, clean the cupboard, then the dust, it was so thick that it was not erasing, or it was not removing from its place. And the writer, that's why he has compared that condition to a place where one could sign a name, means on that dust you could have written your name. It was so thick, means. Okay, now let's move on. Our landlady, though a grandmother, soon proved herself to be a formidable woman. So here the writer is saying that their landlady name was Mrs. Puri, and though she was a very old woman, though she was a grandmother, but she was a very formidable woman. Formidable means energetic and very strong woman. A Sikh from Lahore, and she was a Sikh person from Lahore. Mrs. Puri was expelled from her old home during partition, and in the upheavals of 1947 lost everything. So here the writer has given more information about the landlady, and she is from Lahore, and Lahore is in Pakistan, as you all know. So before the partition, she lived there in Lahore. So after the partition, or during the partition, she had tried to migrate from Lahore to Delhi. And during that process in 1947, she had lost everything. Whatever she had in 1947, that all things were left behind by her due to her lives, or due to her future. Okay, because as you all know, during the partition, many people from India and Pakistan, they have interchanged, means they have exchanged their place. She arrived in Delhi on a ballock cart. Now the writer is saying that Mrs. Puri, she had arrived in Delhi on a ballock cart. So at that time there were no fancy cars. So ballock cart was a good medium for transportation. But 42 years later, she had made the transition from refugee pauper to Punjabi princess. But after 40 years, she had changed her entire being. Okay, she was first a pauper. Pauper means one who did not have money, but now she has money. She has everything she wants. So now she is a kind of Punjabi princess, according to the writer, and that it has been done after 42 years. She was now very rich indeed. She owned houses all over Delhi and had swapped her Balok for a fleet of new Maruti cars, the much coveted replacement for the old Hindustani ambassador. So she has not only sold her Balok cars or her all the animals, but she has also purchased many modern Maruti cars. And this was a very great thing. As you all know, if you have a car, then you are rich. So similarly, after the partition, after the independence of India, after 42 years, now she is able to buy the modern cars or the modern vehicles. That's why she is a very rich and happy woman. And Mrs. Puri also controlled a variety of business interests. Apart from Maruti car business, she has also run. She has also run, what do you call it? Various business interests. This included the Gloriana Finishing School, India's first etiquette college, a unique institution which taught village girls how to use knives and forks, apply lipstick, and make polite conversation about the weather. So apart from all this, she also runs a etiquette school, and in that school, Mrs. Puri, she tries to teach how to use knives and forks, apply lipstick, and make polite conversation about the weather. So these all things are done by Mrs. Puri, apart from renting a house and buying a car. Okay, not a car, she has many cars. So that school name was Gloriana Finishing School. Mrs. Puri had achieved all this through a combination of hard work and good old-fashioned thrift. So Mrs. Puri was a very economical person. Means she did not want to, or she does not want to buy something without any cause. Okay, and that's why she is a very thrift person. And apart from that, she is also a hard worker. And in the heat of summer, she rarely put on the air conditioning. So since she was a very disciplined woman, and since she was an old-fashioned thrift, that's why she does not use air conditioning in the heat time too, or in the summer time too. In the winter, she allowed herself the electric fire for only an hour a day. So in the winter time too, she allowed herself the electric fire for only an hour a day. So that's so we can say that she was a thrift, and she was a disciplined woman. So this thing is noticed by our writer. She recycled the newspaper we threw out, and returning from parties late at night, we could see her still sitting up and silhouette against the window, knitting sweaters for export. Sleep is silver, we would say in explanation, she would say in explanation, but money is gold. So since we know about her now, she is a very hard-working woman, and she does not want to stand still. She keeps on working at new thing. So when our writer, when they threw the newspapers, then that newspapers were recycled by Mrs. Puri, and she also she had also knitted sweaters for export. Export means to sell something to outside world. Okay, and her philosophy, her motivation, according to the writer, was sleep is silver, but the money is gold. And the writer is saying, this was all very admirable, but the hits we soon learned was that she expected her tenants to emulate the discipline she imposed upon herself. So, according to the writer, though the writer has appreciated all the rules, all the way of life of his landlady, Mrs. Puri, but he did not like it when it was imposed on him also. One morning, after only a week in the flat, I turned on the tap to discover that our water had been cut off, so went downstairs to sort out the problem. So here the writer is giving an example that one day, after only a week in the flat of Mrs. Puri, he had turned on the tap to discover that the water had been cut off. So he wanted to solve this problem why their water had been cut off by Mrs. Puri. Then Mrs. Puri had already been up and about for several hours. She had been to the Gurudwara. Gurudwara means where Sikh people, they go to worship, okay, and said her prayers and was now busy drinking her morning glass of rice water. At the time when the writer has tried to meet her, then she was busy in her prayer, and after that she was busy drinking her morning glass of rice water. Then the writer said, there is no water in our flat this morning, Mrs. Puri. No, Mr. William, and I'm telling you why. Then the writer, then the landlady said that, okay, wait, I will tell you why there is no water in your tap. Then Mrs. Puri, she started explaining, you are having guests, Mr. William, and always they are going to the laboratory. So laboratory, it's a kind of loo, it's kind of toilet. Okay, so Then when this question was asked by the writer that why their water tap had been cut off, then the landlady replied him that due to the guest, means she does not like guest in her rent rooms. That's why she had cut off that water supply. But why should that affect the water supply? Last night I counted 7 flashes, said Mrs. Puri, wrapping her stick on the floor. So I have cut off the water as protest. So here the writer has mentioned that the landlady was so adamant that, and she was so thrived in other things also, that when last night she had her 7 flashes, then she had tried to cut off the water supply just to show her anger or protest. So that's it for now. Let's try to know more in our upcoming videos.